do. And she joins us now, we're pleased to say. Thank you so much for coming on to talk about this. So it's quite a new concept, this, isn't it? But it is similar to, I guess, the Sex Offenders Register. Talk to us about how exactly this would work.
First of all, good morning, Mercy, and good morning, Aina. You've just mentioned, obviously, domestic abuse has been on the rise for the last 5 years in Scotland. You've mentioned figures over 65,000 just reported incidents to Police Scotland in 2020 to 21. Just to tell you, that's just over 2,000 more than the year before. So you can see how fast it's rising. But also what's very worrying is more than half of these were re-offenders. So, that's very important that we have to do much more than what's happening right now to make sure that we can help those victims. So just talking a little bit about my bill consultation that is out, is basically, there's 4 areas to it. The Domestic Abuse Register is probably the most really important part that you've mentioned there. It's about working very similar to the Sex Offenders Register. Abusers will be placed on a database so that police and local authorities can track them. And from that, they can see that if someone is at risk, they can basically intervene. Now, this would be basically, it could be any change of address or change of circumstances. And what this helps is, really with is see those serial abusers that they seem to be walking around in plain sight, but moving from victim to victim and place to place and reoffending. And this is one of the biggest problems in the domestic abuse right now, is the reoffending. And the second part would be obviously looking at rehabilitation. I mentioned that reoffending is a problem. We need to look at rehabilitation, whether that be basically different sorts of training programs. And thirdly, it would be basically looking at the legislation where we require government to do much more for underrepresented groups like BAME and communities and from the disabled. And finally, we need to do much more on education. And this, I want to make sure that we can put it into some kind of mandatory element so that at a school age, you can learn early what domestic abuse is. And you can also see those signs coming that, when people are behaving with you at that early stage. And I think that will help that people do not fall into the cycle of abuse, which is sadly so common. So that's the kind of 4 areas.